Imagine trying to juggle, I don't know, like international diplomacy, major domestic arguments, and then on top of that, some really intense personal stuff all in one day.
Yeah, it sounds exhausting.
Right. Well, that's kind of the picture we get looking at India today. Welcome to the deep dive.
Hello.
Today, we're really digging into a whole stack of headlines coming out of India, all dated August 1st, 2025. And our goal here really is to sift through all the noise, find those key pieces of information, the insights that actually matter, so you can get a clearer picture of what's going on.
And what's fascinating, I think, when you lay these stories side by side,
Yeah.
is how they connect.
Yeah.
Things that seem totally separate. They often aren't.
Exactly.
You start to see this complex web India's place in the world, how things are shifting inside the country. We'll be touching on everything from big trade disputes and geopolitics
Right.
to really fundamental social issues, questions about elections, even the personal struggles of a famous athlete. It's quite a mix.
It really is. From those global power plays right down to the human level. So let's start our deep dive into what's shaping India right now. Okay, first up, let's get into this big development in international relations. The U.S.-India relationship. It feels like things have really heated up.
Yeah, you could definitely say that. The immediate trigger seems to be President Trump's announcement, a 25% tariff on Indian goods.
Wow, 25%. That's steep.
It is, and it feels like a sharp escalation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially considering all the bilateral talks that have been happening. This could potentially derail months of negotiations.
And didn't Trump himself say talks were still going on? That seems odd.
It does create a bit of whiplash, yeah. He claims talks are ongoing, but then announces this major tariff. It's a very direct, very public move against New Delhi, almost like drawing a line in the sand.
So is this purely about trade, or is there more to it?
Well, according to a senior U.S. official, it's definitely more complex than just trade figures. They pointed to what they call long-standing differences,
Long-standing differences. Okay, like what?
both economic and geopolitical. On the economic side, Washington has, long had concerns about India's market access. Historically, India has been seen as somewhat closed, protective of its own industries with tariffs and regulations.
Right, the sort of make in India push, self-reliance, that
Right.
kind of thing.
Exactly. Policies aimed at building domestic capacity. The U.S. often views that as protectionist, hindering, what they see as fair trade. It's a fundamental difference in economic philosophy, really.
Okay, that makes sense. But you also mentioned geopolitics. How does that fit into a tariff decision?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The U.S. concerns go beyond just market share. They've apparently voiced issues with New Delhi's active role in BRICS.
BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, that bloc.
Precisely. It's often seen, rightly or wrongly, as a kind of counterweight to Western-led global institutions. And then there's India's continued oil imports from Russia.
Even after the invasion of Ukraine.
Yes. And just India's general stance towards Moscow. The U.S. has definitely been pushing India to, let's say, distance itself from Russia, particularly on energy. But India's pushed back.
Right.
Well, citing long-standing strategic ties, historical defense links, plus their own national interest in having diverse energy sources, they don't want to be reliant on just one bloc. So this tariff, it feels like it could be a response to that broader independent foreign policy as much as anything economic.
It sounds incredibly tangled. Did the U.S. official acknowledge any progress?
They did say discussions have been constructive, which is, something, but they also stressed how layered and multifaceted the whole U.S.-India relationship is, meaning basically don't expect a quick fix or a comprehensive trade deal anytime soon.
Right, and Trump's own actions haven't exactly smoothed things over, have they? Criticizing BRICS, claiming he brokered an India-Pakistan ceasefire on social media.
Which New Delhi flatly denied.
Yeah. India's always been very firm about rejecting outside meddling in regional issues, especially with Pakistan. They insist it has to be bilateral.
And if you look at the bigger picture, it gets even more curious. Because while Trump is hitting India with tariffs, he's actually finalized a trade deal with Pakistan.
Really? At the same time?
Pretty much. And that contrast, that juxtaposition, it really highlights Washington's, maybe divergent approaches to its partners in South Asia. It definitely adds another layer of complexity for U.S.-India diplomats.
So strategically, the U.S. sees India as important, right? As a counterweight to China in the Indo-Pacific.
Absolutely.
Right?
A key democratic ally in the region. That's the narrative. But this tariff move, it risks undermining that very partnership. It could potentially push India to look elsewhere or strengthen ties with other blocs.
Which brings us to the big question then. How do both countries manage this? How do they keep that strategic alignment going, especially with China being a shared concern, while also dealing with these really deep-seated economic and maybe ideological disagreements?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The stakes are incredibly high, both economically and diplomatically. It's a super delicate balancing act. Huge pressure points on both sides. It's really a test of whether that shared geopolitical worry about China can overcome these other fundamental differences.
And we're already seeing the ripples, aren't we? You mentioned India's energy policy.
We absolutely are. This tension isn't just abstract, it's leading to concrete actions.
Right, which leads us straight into this next headline. India seems to be taking what's described as its first significant step in response to all this U.S. pressure, especially after Trump's strong words.
Exactly. We're talking about the Modi government making a pretty unexpected move, cutting back significantly on oil purchases from Russia.
Unexpected because they'd been buying quite a lot, right? Especially after the sanctions hit Russia.
Precisely. India had really ramped up imports of Russian crude, taking advantage of those big discounts when other countries pulled back after the Ukraine invasion. It was a major economic win for them, helping manage energy security and inflation.
So slashing those imports now, that's not just a minor tweak. It feels like a geopolitical signal.
That's exactly how it's being interpreted, a recalibration with potentially significant strategic implications. And the timing, as you mentioned, is key.
How so?
Well, it happens right as Trump is doubling down on his criticism of India's foreign policy, specifically those energy ties with Russia. And it also comes as Russia itself seems to be reinforcing ties with, China and North Korea, countries outside the Western orbit.
So India's caught in the middle.
Pretty much. This cutback looks like a recalibration to align, maybe just slightly, more with Western expectations, or at least to ease some of that pressure, even if it means giving up some of those cheap oil benefits.
Is it just about appeasing the U.S. then? Or is there more strategy involved?
It seems like it's probably more nuanced than just appeasement. It looks like a political gesture, yes, but one designed to navigate these really complex alliances. You've got Russia cozying up to non-Western partners. You've got the U.S. applying pressure. India's trying to find a path through.
Maintaining its autonomy.
That seems to be the goal. Asserting autonomy while still adjusting its position. Observers suggest it could be serving two purposes.
Okay.
1. Reduce that Western scrutiny, maybe avoid further actions like tariffs. 2. Keep some flexibility, some room to maneuver as global power dynamics keep shifting. And, importantly, it also signals to Moscow.
What kind of signal?
That India's foreign policy isn't locked in, that it's independent, responsive to pressures from all sides, not just beholden to one partner. It's a way of saying, we value our ties, but we make our own choices based on the current reality.
But they haven't cut off Russia completely, right? Diplomatic ties remain.
Oh, absolutely. Diplomatic engagement continues, which is significant. It shows India still needs to diversify its energy sources. They can't rely solely on the West or the Middle East, and they want to preserve those long-standing relationships, especially in defense, where Russia has been a key supplier.
So it's not a full pivot away from Moscow.
No, definitely not. More like a nuanced recalibration, adjusting the sails rather than changing the ship's direction entirely. Putin's continued overtures to anti-Western states just add another layer of complexity for India. Ultimately, I think this move really underlines India's broader foreign policy approach, trying to assert sovereignty, make independent choices, but also pragmatically adapt to the way the world is changing, especially with the U.S., Russia, and China all vying for influence in the Indo-Pacific.
It's like watching a high-wire act in real time.
It really is. Complex diplomacy under immense global pressure. Every move has multiple potential interpretations and consequences.
Okay, so from that intricate international stage, let's pivot inwards. Let's look at the domestic political scene in India, where there are equally complex debates happening.
Right. And a major one recently has centered on electoral integrity. That's always a hot topic.
Absolutely. So Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal made a statement in the Rajya Sabha, the upper house of parliament. He clarified that there's actually no provision for suspicious voters under India's election law, the Representation of the People Act.
And this came up because an opposition MP, Ramji Lal Suman from the Samajwadi Party, had raised concerns, right, about potential irregularities in the last big national election, the Lok Sabha polls. He was talking about these suspicious voters and also alleging possible manipulation of the electronic voting machines, the EVMs.
Yeah, the EVM debate never seems to fully go away. So what was Megwal's stance?
Very firm. He basically reiterated the Election Commission's official position. The EC, which is the independent body running the election,
Right.
has stated clearly, 1, there's no such category as a suspicious voter. 2, EVM results cannot be tampered with. He really emphasized the reliability and integrity of these machines.
Pointing to their track record.
Exactly. He noted they've been used successfully in countless elections, huge, complex, national, and state ones, and they've withstood intense scrutiny, both public and judicial, over many years. The argument is they've proven themselves to be robust and secure.
And the courts have weighed in on this too, haven't they?
Extensively. Megwal actually mentioned that something like 42 different petitions challenging the use of EVMs have been filed in various high courts and even the Supreme Court over the years.
42. Wow.
Yeah, and he stressed that in every single case, the courts have upheld the EVMs. They've consistently affirmed their technological robustness and administrative safeguards. They found them credible and tamper-proof. It's a pretty strong judicial endorsement.
So legally, the case seems closed, but the political debate continues.
It does. And recognizing that, the Election Commission has tried to be transparent. They've actually made a huge amount of information about the EVMs publicly available on their website.
Like what kind of information?
Detailed technical manuals, FAQs, the legal history of the court challenges, presentations explaining how they work, the security protocols.
The whole 9 yards.
Trying to dispel the myths, basically.
That seems to be the aim, to counter the doubts by providing direct access to the facts and the technical specifications, affirming the system's legitimacy through openness.
So, Megwal's statement in Parliament. Why now? Is it just pushing back against this specific MP's concerns, or is there a broader goal?
I think it's likely both. It addresses the immediate query, but it also serves a broader purpose, reinforcing voter confidence. With opposition parties occasionally raising doubts about the vulnerability of the voting system, especially around election time.
Yeah, that happens.
This kind of firm statement from the government, citing the EC and the courts, is clearly aimed at validating the credibility of India's whole electoral process, saying it's constitutionally sound, technologically secure, trying to put those recurring questions to bed.
But does it work? If political skepticism keeps bubbling up, even with all the technical and legal reassurances, that's the bigger challenge, isn't it? The government's position is clear. These allegations about suspicious voters or EVM tampering are unfounded, legally baseless, and contradicted by experts and judges. But how does that persistent political skepticism, often driven by electoral competition, affect public trust in the democratic institutions themselves?
It's a tough one. Maintaining faith in the process when there's a constant narrative of doubt, even if unsubstantiated, many democracies grapple with that.
Indeed.
And this political backdrop, this tension over processes and trust, naturally feeds into broader critiques from the opposition, particularly regarding the economy and how the country is being run.
Right, which brings us to Congress leader Rahul Gandhi. He's made some pretty strong statements recently, actually echoing former U.S. President Trump's criticism of the Indian economy.
Echoing Trump. How so?
Well, Trump had apparently referred to India as having a dead economy, and Rahul Gandhi picked up on that, saying Trump stated a fact.
Wow. Aligning with Trump on that specific criticism. That's a bold move politically.
It is. It amplifies the criticism by bringing in an international voice, even one as controversial as Trump's. And Gandhi didn't just stop at echoing Trump. He laid the blame squarely on Prime Minister Modi.
What was his accusation?
He alleged that the Modi government has essentially ruined the country's economic, foreign, and defense policies, primarily by catering to one specific industrialist, Gautam Adani.
Ah, the Adani connection. That's been a recurring theme in his critiques.
Yes. He accused Modi of working solely for Adani and claimed this focus led to the destruction of small businesses and general economic mismanagement. He painted a picture of crony capitalism harming the wider economy.
And the timing of these comments is significant too, right? Coming just as the U.S. tariff news broke.
Exactly. He spoke to reporters right in the midst of those rising tensions over Trump's tariff announcement. It made his comments feel very current and impactful. He argued that Modi's governance has created total confusion and weakened India's standing globally.
Did he connect it back to the potential trade deal?
He did. He suggested, quite bluntly, that any future trade deal with the U.S. would essentially be dictated by Trump, with Modi just signing off on Trump's terms, portraying India under Modi as being in a weak negotiating position.
So it's using an external critique to fuel domestic opposition.
Precisely. It's a tactic to leverage international narratives to amplify discontent at home. He also pointed to specific domestic policies as evidence.
Like which ones?
He brought up demonetization, that shock move in 2016, to remove high-value currency notes and the implementation of the Goods and Services Tax, GST. He argued both hurt small businesses and the informal sector disproportionately.
And the Modi-Adani relationship again.
Absolutely. Linking government policies to the benefit of large corporations, particularly Adani's group, at the expense of everyone else. And his critique wasn't just economic. He touched on foreign policy, too. He claimed that while the U.S., under Trump, and China are pressuring India, other countries failed to speak out strongly against Pakistan's alleged role in a recent terror attack in Pahalgam. The implication being that Indian diplomacy, under Modi, is failing to rally international support on crucial security issues.
He also brought up some of Trump's other claims, didn't he? About brokering a ceasefire and India losing aircraft.
Yes, he questioned Modi's silence on those specific and quite provocative assertions by Trump. Gandhi characterized Modi's response, or lack thereof, as weak, suggesting a failure to stand up for India's interests and narrative on the world stage.
So taken together, it's a pretty comprehensive attack.
It's a forceful political broadside, absolutely, aimed squarely at highlighting what the opposition sees as major failures of the Modi administration economically, diplomatically, strategically. Aligning with Trump's dead economy comment, however risky, is clearly intended to magnify this critique and sow doubts about India's direction under the current leadership.
It definitely raises questions about how political opposition functions in this increasingly interconnected and often contentious global environment.
It certainly does.
Okay, so from those high-level political and economic battles, let's zoom in a bit. Let's look at some other stories making headlines, from the sports arena to some really quite troubling societal issues. It shows the sheer breadth of what's happening.
Right, let's start with cricket. Always big news in India. Things aren't looking great for the Indian team in the final test against England at the Oval, are they?
No, not really. They ended the first day, which was hit by rain, on 204 for 6. That's precarious, to say the least, especially since most of the top-order batsmen are already out.
Yeah, a top-order collapse really puts you on the back foot.
Yeah.
And the captain, Shubman Gill, well, standing captain, he got himself run out, didn't he?
He did. After being so dominant all series, apparently went for an ambitious single and paid the price. That seemed to be a real turning point, leaving India vulnerable.
And England clearly capitalized. They managed to get rid of Rahul for 14, Ravindra Jadeja for 9, Yashasvi Jaiswal for just 2. Even though their own bowlers apparently took a little while to find their rhythm early on.
So England's bowlers eventually came good.
It seems so. Gus Atkinson, who was back in the team, apparently made a big difference. He got Jaiswal out LBW and later took Dhruv Jural's wicket with a slip catch.
Okay.
Chris Wokes got Rahul, who was looking quite settled. And Josh Tongue, after maybe a shaky start, managed to dismiss Sai Sudarshan, who'd made 38, and then Jadeja pretty quickly afterwards. Those are key breakthroughs for England.
What about Gill, apart from the run-out? Did he make any impact? He was chasing records, wasn't he?
He was, and he actually did manage to break one. He surpassed Garfield Sober's series run record from way back. Gill now has 743 runs for the series.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is, but his innings on the day were short, only 20-odd runs. So while he got the personal milestone, it didn't really help the team build a strong foundation. And his dismissal really exposed the middle order, especially with Rishabh Pant injured and unavailable.
Right. Pant's absence is a huge blow to their batting depth.
Massive. So was there any resistance after Gill fell?
There was a bit, thankfully. Kept them from totally collapsing. Karun Nair apparently played really well, anchoring the innings with a composed 52 not out by the close of play.
Nair. That could be a significant innings for him, showing resilience under pressure.
Definitely. And Washington Sundar was with him, not out on 19, so that partnership gave them something to build on, maybe, heading into day 2, prevented a complete disaster.
Still, it's a tough position. This match is crucial, right? India needs to win it to draw the series.
Exactly. A series loss in England is something they desperately want to avoid. But from 204 for 6, winning looks like a very tall order, especially with a potentially weakened lower order.
And England, even without their captain Ben Stokes, will feel they're in control now. They bowled with discipline, took wickets at key moments, and have the early advantage.
Yeah. 4 days left, but India needs a massive fight back from Nair, Sundar, and the bowlers who can bat a bit. England will be looking to consolidate and push for that series win.
It sets up an interesting, if challenging, situation for the remaining days. From collective team struggles on the field, though, we shift to something much more personal.
Yeah, a really different kind of battle. Indian cricketer Yuzvendra Chahal has opened up about his mental health struggles.
Ah, yes, I saw this. During his divorce from Dhaneshri Verma, the choreographer and influencer.
That's right. He gave a very candid interview, apparently on Raj Shamani's podcast. He spoke about the emotional turmoil being so intense that it led him to have suicidal thoughts. Really deep psychological distress.
Wow, that's incredibly brave of him to share something so personal.
It really is. He revealed that the separation wasn't sudden. It had been developing quietly for a long time. But they consciously chose to maintain appearances on social media, keep up the facade, until the divorce process was finalized. He actually said, "We decided we do not want to show the people. Yes, I was faking it."
That must have been incredibly difficult, faking normalcy while going through that. Did he say what led to the breakup?
He put it down mainly to incompatibility, said they were both very ambitious, focused on their demanding careers, and they just couldn't find enough common ground or willingness to compromise to make the relationship work long term.
That's understandable. Balancing two high-profile careers can be tough.
He emphasized that mutual respect and support are vital, but it's hard when both people are so consumed by their individual paths.
And the public nature of their relationship probably didn't help, especially after the separation became known.
Exactly. He talked about how the aftermath was made much worse by all the online speculation and media frenzy. He very strongly denied any rumors of infidelity, stating quite clearly, "You won't get a more loyal person than me." He condemned the media for, sensationalizing things, linking him with other people just based on photos or public appearances. It highlights that intense pressure and lack of privacy public figures endure.
And the mental toll he described sounds severe.
Extremely. He talked about suffering from severe insomnia, sleeping only about 2 hours a night for a whole month, and the suicidal thoughts he mentioned, just devastating.
Yeah.
He even admitted that his focus on the cricket field was completely gone during that period, which led him to take a temporary break from the sport altogether to focus on his mental health.
That shows how profoundly it affected every aspect of his life. It's important that athletes feel able to step back when needed.
Absolutely. Despite all the pain, though, he did mention that the divorce itself was peaceful and mutual. He made a point of saying that two people can part ways without hostility.
That's a mature perspective, despite the difficulty.
There was one slightly cryptic detail he mentioned wearing a t-shirt in court that said, "Be your own sugar daddy." He called it his symbolic response to something from the other side, but didn't elaborate further.
Interesting. Leaves a bit of mystery there.
It does. But the main takeaway, really, is the raw honesty about the private pain behind the public persona. His willingness to talk about suicidal thoughts, insomnia, faking it. It's a powerful call for more empathy, more respect for privacy, and crucially, more awareness around mental health, especially for those living under the constant gaze of the public eye.
A very important message. And from those personal struggles, we move to something truly shocking on a community level. Allegations of serious crimes.
Yes, this next story is deeply disturbing. It involves a whistleblower who has come forward in Dharmasthala, which is a well-known pilgrimage town in Karnataka in South India.
What are the allegations?
Horrifying ones. Decades-long mass burials allegedly involving victims of rape and murder. It's triggered a major criminal investigation.
Good heavens. Who is the whistleblower?
A former sanitation worker. He reportedly approached the police with skeletal remains he had kept. His claim is that he was forced, under threat, to dispose of bodies between 1995 and 2014.
Forced? By whom?
He alleges powerful figures within the town compelled him. He described disposing of bodies of mainly women and young girls. He spoke of truly chilling scenes, victims burned with acid, schoolgirls who had been strangled, homeless people murdered, all secretly buried.
This is nightmarish. Did he give specific examples?
He did. He recounted finding a young girl, maybe 12 to 15 years old, near a petrol station, half naked, clearly assaulted. He said he had to bury her. He also revealed he'd been in hiding for over 10 years, moving between states because he feared for his life before finally deciding to come forward now, seeking protection under the Witness Protection Act.
The courage that must have taken after carrying that burden for so long.
Unimaginable. Lawyers helped him connect with the authorities, which set the legal process in motion. Apparently, he even went back and exhumed one body himself in June and gave photos to the police as evidence.
Exhumed a body himself.
That's the report. A formal case was then registered in early July under a section of India's new criminal code, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So this is now an official, high-stakes investigation.
Has anyone else come forward or corroborated parts of his story?
Yes, and that makes it even more disturbing. A retired CBI stenographer named Sujatha Pat has spoken out. Her daughter disappeared in Dharmasthala back in 2003.
Oh, no.
She claims the police back then dismissed her missing person report, suggesting her daughter had just run off, eloped. But Mrs. Pot persisted in asking questions, and she alleges that she was then abducted, assaulted, and woke up months later with head injuries and memory loss.
Abducted and assaulted for seeking answers about her missing daughter.
That's her claim. And now, tragically, she fears her daughter might be one of the victims described by this whistleblower.
This points toward something potentially systemic, a cover-up even.
That's certainly the fear and the implication. These revelations have, understandably, drawn national attention. If numerous bodies are indeed buried in the forested areas around the town as alleged, the investigation could uncover systemic abuse and cover-up spanning decades. The legal, political, and human rights implications are just enormous.
It raises fundamental questions about justice, accountability, and how vulnerable people could allegedly be preyed upon for so long in a place known for pilgrimage. What systems failed or were potentially complicit?
Exactly, a deeply troubling situation that demands a thorough, transparent investigation. From that incredibly serious issue, we shift again, this time to a controversy involving religion, culture, and e-commerce.
Right, the Lord Jagannath doormat incident in Odisha. That caused quite a stir.
It really did. The issue was that the Chinese e-commerce giant AliExpress was found listing and selling doormats featuring the image of Lord Jagannath,
Who is a very highly revered deity in Hinduism, especially central to the culture and faith in the state of Odisha.
Precisely. So, putting his image on a doormat, something people wipe their feet on, was seen as deeply offensive. The reaction was immediate and strong.
I imagine the Sri Jagannath Temple Administration, SJTA, wasn't happy.
Not at all. They filed a police complaint straight away, calling it a severe offense to Hindu sentiments worldwide. Political figures jumped in too. Odisha's Deputy Chief Minister Pravati Parida, Congress MLA Sophia Ferdas, both condemned it publicly on social media platform X, demanding the product be removed, and AliExpress apologize.
Did AliExpress respond?
They did, relatively quickly. They issued a statement saying the product had been taken down and that they appreciated the feedback, which helped them improve their platform standards.
But did that quell the outrage?
Not entirely. Prominent figures continued to voice their anger. Sudarshan Patnaik, the famous sand artist from Odisha, and former MP Amar Patnaik were among those calling it a profound insult, a desecration of a sacred image. The core issue, as you said, was the disrespect inherent in placing a divine figure on an item designed to be stepped on. It touches a raw nerve about cultural sensitivity, especially when it involves global companies.
Definitely. And it's not the first time something like this has happened, with Hindu deities appearing on inappropriate merchandise sold online by international vendors. It seems to be a recurring problem.
So, the temple administration filed a formal police report, an FIR.
Yes, at the cyber police station in Puri, the city where the main Jagannath temple is located. The FIR explicitly states that putting Lord Jagannath on a doormat is a grave affront to religious and cultural values, and requested legal action against whoever was responsible for listing it.
So they're pushing for accountability beyond just removing the listing.
It seems so. And this whole incident really highlights, again, just how sensitive religious symbols are, especially in commercial contexts. It also shows the growing vigilance in India from authorities and the public about ethics in the digital marketplace.
It sparks that wider debate, doesn't it, about global companies needing to respect local faiths and cultural representations.
Absolutely. And the accountability of these huge e-commerce platforms that operate across borders. There are calls now for stronger rules or monitoring to prevent the sale of culturally insensitive products online.
And with the FIR register, there might be legal consequences.
Potentially. It could set a precedent or lead to clearer safeguards. It really raises that crucial question about digital responsibility in our globalized world. How do you balance free commerce with protecting deeply held cultural and religious beliefs? Whose responsibility is it ultimately, the platform, the seller, the buyer?
A complex question with no easy answers. Okay, we've certainly covered a wide spectrum of human activity and concerns. Let's wrap up with a look at the forces of nature impacting India.
Right. The monsoon, always critical.
Absolutely. So the environmental news is focused on the monsoon forecast, and the India Meteorological Department, the IMD, is predicting above normal rainfall across the country for August and September.
It sounds like good news overall for the second half of the season.
It does. It's a promising outlook, especially for agriculture and replenishing water resources. Looking closer, August is forecast to have normal rain, but September might see above normal levels.
So combined, it should be more than average.
Yeah, the cumulative rainfall for those 2 months is expected to be over 106% of the long period average, or LPA. The LPA is that benchmark figure, 422.8 millimeters, based on rainfall data from 1971 to 2020. So more than that is generally positive for the country as a whole.
But as a whole, often hides regional differences, doesn't it? Is the rain expected to be evenly spread?
That's the crucial caveat. No, it's not expected to be even. While the national picture looks good, some specific regions are likely to get below normal rainfall.
Which regions?
According to the IMD, parts of northeast India, some areas in east and central India, and also the southwestern peninsular areas might see less rain than usual.
The Northeast. Hasn't that region been experiencing weaker monsoons recently?
It has, and this forecast is consistent with that worrying trend. The IMD chief, Mrutyunjay Mohapatra, pointed out that there's been a declining 30-year trend in monsoon activity there, and this would actually mark the 5th year in a row of reduced rainfall for the Northeast.
5 years. That's a significant pattern. Must be causing real concern there.
Definitely. Water scarcity, impact on agriculture, local ecosystems. It's a major issue. But on a more positive note, the IMD is trying to improve its forecasting capabilities.
How so?
They've launched a new initiative called the Blockwise Rainfall Monitoring Scheme, or BRMS.
Blockwise, you mean like more localized data?
Exactly. It provides real-time rainfall data for about 7,200 administrative blocks across India. That's a huge jump in detail, apparently a 10-fold increase in spatial resolution compared to the old system, which only gave data at the district level.
Wow, that sounds like a major upgrade. What's the goal of having such granular data?
The aim is to really improve decision-making on the ground. For agriculture, farmers get much more precise local forecasts for planting, irrigation, harvesting. For disaster management, it allows for more targeted flood or drought warnings and better resource allocation.
Makes sense.
And it also helps with planning water resources and even government programs like crop insurance or the MGN-REGA Rural Employment Scheme, which often depend on local weather conditions.
So it's about making climate information more actionable at the local level.
Precisely. And just for context, the first part of the monsoon, June and July, saw India overall getting 6% above normal rain. Central India got a lot more, 23% above average, and Northwest India was 21% above.
But the East and Northeast were down.
Yeah, they had a 22% deficit consistent with that trend. The South Peninsula was just slightly below normal. July also had some extreme weather events. 76 instances of extremely heavy rain, over 600 of very heavy rain, showing how variable the monsoon can be. Though widespread flooding was apparently less severe than in some recent years.
So the new forecast and this BRMS system, it sounds like an effort to adapt, to manage both the overall national picture and these increasingly stark regional climate realities.
That seems to be the idea, using better technology and data to respond more effectively to both the agricultural needs and the environmental challenges posed by the monsoon in a changing climate.
Very important work.
Indeed. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into this particular set of headlines from August 1st, 2025. You know, looking back at all this, it really is a striking snapshot of India's complexity, isn't it? That constant motion, the big geopolitical chess game, the economic pressures, clashing with those intense internal political debates about elections, about the economy itself.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then layered underneath all that, you have these incredibly human stories. Resilience, like Karunar on the pitch, or Yuzvendra Chahal speaking out. Vulnerability. Critical issues of justice emerging in Dharmasthala, cultural sensitivities flaring up over a doormat, and then just the raw power of nature with the monsoon. It drives home how interconnected everything is, the global, the national, the local, the personal.
So as you listen to this, what's the takeaway? We've seen tension, yes, but also adaptation, resilience, moments of transformation. India keeps asserting its own path, navigating this really complex global order. How do all these different pieces, a tariff threat, a cricketer's confession, a whistleblower's shocking testimony, a monsoon forecast, how do they fit together? What picture do they paint of a nation grappling with its identity, its challenges, and its future right now?
And maybe the deeper question is, In this flood of daily information we all face, how do you find those underlying currents, those deeper connections between stories that seem separate but actually reveal the real forces shaping a nation's journey? We hope listening today encourages you to think about how these Indian narratives reflect themes we see everywhere: power, progress, justice, the human spirit. How do these specific stories resonate with universal experiences?
Lots to think about. Until next time, keep digging deeper.